King Charles came to the United States. Why? He came to the United States to draw the United States into a hopeless war with Russia. That's what we're going to talk about in this video. Hey, Steve, thank you so much for making yourself available once again. We recorded, I thought, a really great conversation about the indictments and the arrests, and you made reference to King Charles's visit to the United States. Only you called him King Chuck, which
King Chucky.
Quite disrespectful. You have to tug your forelock when you mention
you know
the
what?
king.
I'm not one of his subjects, so as far as I can
you're
he's King Chuck.
You're one of these ordinary Americans, aren't you? With your
Yes,
revolution and your
Yeah.
republic.
Mhm.
Okay, so why? So you said to me before we started recording, you thought he came over in order to draw the United States into war with Russia. Why do you say that?
Well, Russia's been the book. Look, they always need a boogeyman, right? The Russia was the boogeyman after World War II until the 91. So, and Russia's never not been the boogeyman. So I saw that as the king coming over and saying, we need Americans to fight on the ground in Ukraine. And it's because the Ukrainians are out of people and they need a world war. They need a world war with Russia and China. That's their plan. By 2030, we're going to be in a world war. I don't know how they're going to do it.
Why do they need a war, Steve?
They got to reset the currency. I mean, look at all of these countries. This is the grift, right? If you look at, well, the perfect example of this is Eddie Bauer. You know the company Eddie Bauer, right? They make clothing.
No,
So there's a company here.
Not in the UK.
Yeah, well, there's a company here called Eddie Bauer. They make outdoor clothing. When the brand was first created, it was bulletproof. Like you got sick of the outerwear that you were wearing before you got rid of it and before it wore out. It was that good. It was the quality was that good. The company was bought out by Spiegel Group early 2000s, and Spiegel Group came in, loaded the company with debt, paid all their executives. All the executives left the U.S. and then they filed for bankruptcy. The employees bought it, rebuilt it, and now it's a thriving company that's out of debt. But the investment firm Spiegel Group, that's exactly what the central banks and the World Economic Forum, that's their game, right? They move into a country, they bring in a central bank, they start to issue now it's going to be tokens. They want to tokenize everything, and they want to laden everybody with debt, and they want to keep them in slavery and bonds, bondage for the foreseeable future, and just have their small group. Like if you listen to Elon's talking about universal basic income or universal high income, to where AI is going to do everything and you can just go and pursue your passions. Yeah, good luck with that. But that's the game. And the European nations they're flat broke. They've been flat broke. So they need a mechanism to write down all the debt and to reset the currency. And that's what a war does. That's what World War II did. Created Bretton Woods, wrote down all the debt, created Bretton Woods. And here we are. Right. So we're at the end of the fiat currency. So they need a war. And every major currency reset is punctuated with some kind of a world war or some kind of a major conflict. So here we are. And who's the boogeyman? China and Russia. And by the way, the European aristocracy has had this hard on for Russia for the past 70 years. I don't know what it is, but they all have this big war boner that everybody's going to go fight Russia. Like, why do you want to fight Russia? What really? Why do you want to fight Russia? So, and there's a lot of theories around it. Putin doesn't want a central bank. Putin's not signed up. I don't know how much of that I believe. I just think that, the king coming over here is groveling and, riding the guilt train all the way to the station to say, we've supported you through all these wars, and now it's your turn to support us. No, I don't work for you. Go back home and go pray over Jimmy Savile's grave, you frickin' chomo. So that's my view of him. And, the fact that he was best friends with Jimmy Savile and it was brushed under the carpet, the fact that Andrew was a raging pedophile, you have no credibility to come here and tell us what wars we need to fight for you. You can just fuck off back to the UK and nobody needs to hear you. And by the way, Queen Horseface is not really a queen. she's an imposter that's been implanted into the royal family. And by the way, just so
You
we're
mean
perfectly
Camilla,
clear,
the queen consort, Camilla?
yeah, Queen Horseface, yeah. So if you if you took all the aristocracy in Europe off the board, war would stop. All of it would stop. So, and by the way, if I hear a loyal title one more time, I'm going to puke. That's all I've heard all week. Oh, the king wants his loyal title. What, Habsburg? That's what he wants? He wants to rename himself from Windsor to Habsburg? Good luck with that. You're still a freak show. So, I what I found amazing about the whole thing is that the king comes over here. You don't see any no kings protests.
Yes.
You don't see any no kings protesters. You don't hear any no kings rhetoric. You don't hear or see any kind of, domestic upheaval. The whole city was on its best behavior.
Yes.
And outside of the congressional chambers was redcoats and, you know, people that were dressed in revolutionary garb from the Continental Army standing proudly at attention while the biggest chomo on the planet walked into our beholden chambers. So yeah, I thought it was
That
just a
that
big
that was
side
quite
show.
a signal.
You
That was quite a
think?
signal having the redcoats.
Yeah. So and I'm curious to see what EM's view of this is going to be, because he's all about, God save the king. And I'm like, God hang the king. I mean, the guy's committed crimes against children. He needs to go. And anyway, that aside, the question you got to ask is who was coming to pay court to who? And EM was right about this, that you only go to the king's court to pay homage to the king. So he came to pay homage to Trump, not the other way around.
Yeah.
And that's a loud message.
And
So
Trump gave him a signed copy of the Declaration of Independence.
uh-huh.
Wherever you are with regards to Trump, TDS or TLS, the guy's entertaining. He's really entertaining. Although I suppose you have to give up your TDS to be able to see that,
Yeah.
to get how
And
funny he is.
and look, Trump, people need to realize Trump's an entertainer. He knows how to put on a show. And
Yeah.
that's what we saw as a big show. But what I thought was amazing was how Congress was basically a bunch of trained monkeys.
Oh, well, they stood up and applauded war with
Oh.
Ukraine. Yeah.
Yay, oppression, yay. Yeah. It was dumb. It was literally dumb.
Stephen, there does seem to be, maybe it's changed now, right? There are red-blooded Republicans like yourself who have no truck for the royal family, but isn't
I'm not
there
a
this?
Republican, man. I'm not a Republican.
What I mean is, okay,
you could
I
call me an independent.
no,
I
I don't mean like
identify.
Republican, like GOP.
I'm a conservative.
I don't mean like GOP, but thank
Okay,
you for
good.
pointing that out. I don't mean that. I mean like someone who's not a royalist, right? But there is this, isn't this strain within the American citizenry, this sort of respect and romantic notion of the royal family and English traditions and stuff like that? Or is that
No,
gone by the?
no.
Maybe you're the wrong person
Sorry,
to
no,
ask.
no. Well, here's why I say that, right?
Yeah.
Epstein changed the landscape. When Prince Andrew was identified as a pedophile across the entire planet, that changed the image of the Windsor family forever.
Right.
That was like the shot across the bow that most people didn't expect. And the more he dug himself in and tried to make himself look less culpable, the more culpable he looked. So, and the king, he suffers by guilt by association. There's a lot of people here that think William and Harry are pedophiles. I don't know if that's true. I really don't care. But I know one thing's for sure. They're called the Epstein class. That's how everybody refers to them. The Windsors are the Epstein class. Now, if that's true or not, again, I don't know. But if you're friends with Jimmy Savile, and he's the most notorious pedophile in UK history, and you're friends with other people, and your brother's a pedophile or your cousin's a pedophile, looks like a duck, walks like a duck, it's probably a duck.
And your uncle, Lord
Yeah.
Mountbatten.
So my point of saying all that is that the American public's view of the royals has changed drastically. And you can thank Meghan Markle for that. If she came over here and she turned basically into an entitled snot, and everybody's like, no, I don't think so. So they've done some of it to themselves, but the revelations from Epstein has really tarnished any monarch across Europe and any of the elites here in the US. I mean, it's forever changed. And that's the reality. It's not, and that's not my opinion. You should hear what people say right now. People are like, all these Epstein people need to be rounded up and they need to be
Yeah.
taken to Gitmo and executed. Every single one of them.
Well, amongst non-pedophiles hold no truck for pedophiles. It's horrific. It's horrible. It makes
Well, we need to
skin
differentiate
crawl.
here too, because people, you know, Epstein was not just a trafficking operation. It was money laundering.
Mm.
It was supporting illicit and clandestine operations. It was working with labs, bio research. I mean, the funniest things that came out of the Epstein files were the fact that the lotteries are all rigged and they're all going to people in the system. And then you have, you know, the email change. I don't know if they're real or not, but they're hysterical. Is like Epstein is the guy who created Bitcoin. So Bitcoin's bullshit too. You see, like,
No,
there's no part of our system that's not good.
that one doesn't that was fake. He came.
Still funny though.
It is funny, right? There's a lot that's funny. No, he came into Bitcoin after it was invented, and then he gave money to one of the team of developers and stuff.
Still funny though. Still
yes,
hysterical.
yes, there's still
hysterical.
they're still funny. Let me tell you something funny. Go back to Meghan Merkel. A couple of things, right? So one is there's what Chris Rock said about Meghan Merkel, which is he said that he satirized her for complaining that the royal family were racist, and Chris Rock says, he's like, does she know who she married? Does she know who she married? They invented racism, right? and then the other thing, what was it? He said also, she criticized the royal family because they were so curious about what color the baby was going to be. And Chris Rock says, all black families are curious about what color their baby's going to be. And then the other thing that I have this personal notion.
That's very true too.
It's true, right? That's right. My wife is Scottish, right? Very fair skin. We were like, what color's our baby going to be? They're lovely colors, by the way, just so you're
I'm
clear.
Scottish too, so just so you know. So
yeah.
Yeah,
your babies are lovely colors too. Everybody's baby's a lovely color.
Yeah, it's just, there's just what you realize through all of it though is that everything is a construct, right? It's just everything's fabricated. There's stuff, and it makes you wonder too, how much of our history have we been told that is complete nonsense? That's just fabrication, right? But I think that the king coming here, I think he's paying homage to the US. I think he's groveling so that we will enter the war.
But that ain't gonna happen.
I didn't think we were going to bomb Iran. And I'm hearing today that it's tonight or tomorrow we're going to bomb them again. Like the learning curve is flat.
No, but not we're not gonna go in with Ukraine.
Well, if we were smart, we would stay out of Ukraine. We would make friends with Russia. We would make a deal in Iran, and we would move on down the road and start really going after people that are. I mean, because look, the existential crisis for everybody right now is the famine they're architecting. That's we talked about that in the last show, right? That's really the existential crisis. The king coming here, everybody lined up, the explicit rules that were handed down to Congress, which, by the way, they handed out explicit protocol rules for everybody in Congress for the king's visit, to include don't touch the king. So for all of them to abide by those rules while the king was here is a no better indicator of just how compromised they all are. They're all trained monkeys. They literally lined up and did whatever they were told. Tell me without telling me you're a compromised trained monkey.
Hold on, Steve. Isn't that just pure respect, protocol, diplomatic niceties?
No.
Okay, well that's the end of that conversation. Next.
I mean, they can't even show the president of the United States respect when he goes and shows up for the State of the Union. But yet a foreign king comes in A king we threw out of our country 250 years ago. Oh, by the way, the 250-year anniversary is on July 4th, and this guy shows up just before to say, we need you to fight another war for us. Yeah, I don't think so. But I didn't think we would bomb Iran. So I'm not going to never say never anymore, because here doesn't mean anything.
Okay.
That's a Tuesday.
Okay. Well, back to the visit with King Charles, because there were other stuff. There was the thing with the bees. There was what King Charles said in his speech. There's what Trump said in his speech. Any commentary about any of that?
To me, that's all kabuki theater, right? Because the messaging is, and again, I haven't listened to all of it yet. And to be honest with you, I can't bring myself to listen to Trump talk. He drives me crazy. Um, but that said, there's always messaging, right? And the way that this, and again, the whole satanic picture of Chuck,
Yeah.
that one really sticks in my craw, because he hasn't announced it. He hasn't, they haven't changed it. So let's stay on that vein. They always message what their intentions are, so they can exonerate themselves of any negative karma. So they're telling us something. Either there's going to be some kind of, and I've heard this now for months, that there's going to be some kind of major attack here that's going to make 9/11 look like child's play, blah blah blah. And I've said all along, if something like that happens here, I'm going to look right at MI6, the CIA, and Mossad, and say, you did that.
Hmm.
So he's definitely messaging something. It's what's the something he's messaging that I'm really wondering about, right? Because you're talking about a guy who has nothing but disdain for the American citizen. Like he absolutely loathes Americans, and he's a Muslim. So the whole prayer thing, the whole Christian thing, it's all nonsense. This is the same guy that wrote letters to Muslims for Ramadan, right? It's the same
Yeah.
guy, right?
We're
Okay.
just we're just on that, just for American viewers, right? The king has a constitutional role as the head of the Church of England, and to ensure that Christianity endures and prevails in Scotland, England, Wales, and Northern Ireland. That's his job.
Well, he's
And
failing.
yeah, absolutely. And then a he didn't do what was it, an announcement or something at Easter, but
Mhm.
he had Muslims come and have their iftar meal to break their fast during Ramadan in Windsor Castle. And there is this thing about he's become a Muslim and stuff. And I don't know if it's true or not, because he hasn't come out and said, I'm a Muslim. But I
Well, he
do know,
can't, because he'll get hung. If he came out
well,
and said,
it's
I'm
a
a Muslim,
violation of, it's a violation of his role
Mhm.
as the head of the church. You can't have a Muslim as the head of the Church of England, for crying out.
That'd be mostly bad. Just saying. That's
That's
mostly bad.
that's trans religious. So maybe
Sure it
you
is.
can. It's
Okay,
trans
yeah,
religious.
it's transiently. He identifies as a Muslim. Let's just go that way.
Oh my God. Oh my God, what is going on? What is going on?
But you see my point, right? It's just the ludicrousness of all of it is you just can't make it up anymore. And they're so blatantly on display with all the satanic nonsense that I'm sure he was messaging something. I mean, that's how they work. And I don't think it's a coincidence that he came right in the middle of, I don't want to go too far in the astrology, but during I think we're in a Mercury retrograde, or one of the retrogrades is going on right now. I should ask my
I don't
phone.
know. I don't know. But was there do you see any connection with his visit, the timing of that, and the shooting that happened at the White House Correspondents' Dinner?
That was all fiction.
But who
That
was
was
behind
false
that?
flag. I don't know who was behind it, but clearly it's false flag. There's two things going on right now related to that. And
Hmm.
I guess this is a good segue. So first of all, the messaging from the liberal media is literally that Trump is going to be assassinated. That's, we just had Jimmy Kimmel um, say that Melania had the glow of a new widow, and I mean that's sedition. That's open sedition. So you have all that messaging going on in the mainstream, and then you have all this subversive stuff going on in the background. And if you look at and again, 48-hour rule. Anytime you see stuff like this, wait 42 to 72, 48 to 72 hours to see how the story develops. So right now, it really looks like Trump knew it was coming. It really looks like. If you look at his face, you look at the way he reacts, you look at the fact that they took the vice president off stage first and then the president.
Yeah,
And then there's pictures of him backstage watching people being evacuated. It's a show. But, who knows how much of it's real? I don't know how much of it's real. I just know that it's clearly a false flag.
That was peculiar. Why remove the VP before you
Why remove Vance?
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, the messaging has been so awful and so terrible across the administration that nothing would surprise me at this point.
Okay, well, let me just let us know in the comments, why do you think they removed JD Vance before they removed the president? I want two kinds of comments: silly ones and sensible ones.
Yeah, because that's not protocol. Protocol is POTUS first.
Yeah.
First lady, and then the vice president, all at the same time.
Yeah.
So
you have enough security there, and then the idea that this guy was able to get even as far as a building, that there wasn't perimeter security.
That's not how the game's played. Look, DC is an armed camp. The whole place, cameras everywhere, sensors everywhere. They got roaming guards everywhere. They got more police than most cities, and they would have had a perimeter outside, a perimeter inside, and they would have had people vetting and scanning people coming in. This guy runs in with a gun in the stairwell. Yeah, that happened.
There's as much security as a library. That's right.
Chimps grabbing bananas.
Okay.
My God.
All right. Let me see. So then let's go to the Ukraine-Russia war. And how do you think that's going to play out then? Assuming that Trump, dear God, please, he's not going to get in. He's not going to get involved.
If Trump is smart, if he's smart, he will not take the bait on that. He will not go into, look, we've already given, let's just take stock of where we are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. They've killed at least 2 million Ukrainians. Basically, they wiped out at least 2 million. And they've wiped out entire generations. We have sent all of our strategic war stocks, including a lot of missiles, to Ukraine. We've given them HIMARS. We've given them just about everything. We gave them Patriots. We're stripping Asia now to deal with the Israeli-driven Gulf issues. So we don't have the capacity to go to war with Russia. More importantly, Trump doesn't have the public support to go to war with Russia. Most Americans don't want and didn't want another conflict. And this is a guy that ran on the fact that he didn't want to get into the Middle East because it's not our problem to solve. And here we are. Biggest buildup in history in the Middle East. And I will tell you that I don't think the target is Ukraine. I think the target is Turkey. And I think the rhetoric around Turkey and the buildup around Turkey is what really the agenda is. I think Ukraine is going to end naturally on its own because neither side right now can do anything bigger than a squad size movement. They can't even do that. They move in ones and in pairs. They can't move in a company size element or a platoon size element because they just get decimated by the drones. They can't have any forward medical units. Everything is like 5 to 7 kilometers behind the front lines. You can't sustain a force on that. So we're going to
why can't they have the medical units? Because of the drones? They'll get
because of the drones. The drone threat has just decimated that place. I mean, we've seen, when this first started, we saw tank on tank engagement. We saw armor to armor engagements, platoon size, company size level. Now we don't see any of that. They can't move anybody to the front line in bigger than maybe 3 or 4 people in a vehicle. Otherwise, they get smoked by the drones. And again, so King Shuck comes over here. Let's just drop what we're doing never mind the deployment we have with probably 2/3 of our force right now in the Middle East, all around Israel. And by the way, we're not in the Persian Gulf. We're actually in the Mediterranean because the missile threat from the Iranians is so lethal that we can't dare put any capital ships in there inside of the missile range because they get smoked. And, oh, by the way, all of our bases have been smoked. So we don't have the capacity to go fight in Ukraine. And he doesn't have public support.
Right.
If he's stupid enough to think, I will tell you, you want to start a civil war? Go put boots on the ground in Ukraine. That'll start a civil war here. And I will lead the fucking insurgency against this motherfucker if he does that. Because
I don't think he's going to do that. I don't
either. But it's only Tuesday or Wednesday. I mean, it's still early in the week. We could start a war tomorrow. That could be no problem. But you see where I'm going with that, right? That you want to know where my anger is? My anger is right there. Watching guys like Lindsey Graham and all of the other neocons say how we need to go and defend Israel. Well, none of those guys are going to go fight.
Yeah, they should go. They should go send their sons.
Oh, I'd send that queer bait in a fucking uniform in a heartbeat and put him on the ground and say, here's a rifle, go attack the enemy and don't come back. But we don't do that here. Anyway, I can't stand Lindsey Graham. He drives me crazy. But that's where my anger's at. I'm watching good Americans getting killed in a conflict that we didn't start, that the Israelis started, and we got sucked into it. And now Trump is sitting there talking about, we won, we lost, we won, we lost. It's open, it's closed, it's open, it's closed. Like every word out of his mouth discredits him and discredits the U.S. Okay. And what I'm trying to decide is, was it on purpose? Is it on purpose?
Okay.
Really?
I want to go back to Europe but before I say that, I want to say to people, if you're in the UK, go to notaxforwar.com or upinarms.uk in order to protest against the government's policies, the UK government's policies, including war. You can find out how you can lawfully, legally withhold your taxes. Notaxforwar.com. And thank you again for that segue, Stephen. You said Turkey is the target. Whose target is it? Is it Europe's
Israel came out this
week
and said Israel's the next boogeyman. Or sorry, said Turkey's the next boogeyman.
Who said
Israel said it. Israel.
Right.
Foreign minister. Our next existential threat is Turkey.
Because Israel's done such a great job. Israel's done such a great job in defeating Iran and Hezbollah and Hamas. And
Turkey is a NATO member. Turkey is an ally. We have bases in Turkey.
Yep. And
I mean, that's all you have to say right there. We have bases in Turkey.
Turkey, even on its own, Turkey's not a pushover at all.
Well,
not at all.
Why would you go pick a fight with somebody that's a NATO member? What the fuck is wrong with you? What is wrong with these people? I'll tell you what's wrong with them. They're all psychopaths. I mean, the state of affairs is so bad right now that, I'm hearing from guys in the system that are saying, we maybe got 3 days worth of real missile fire left. Then we're out of Tomahawks. We're out of long range missiles. They've taken out several of our HIMARS. They've taken out a lot of our Patriots. We've blown through all of our Patriots defending Israel, and we're really not even defending them. And that's not even the Orishniks. Imagine if the Iranians get the Orishnik. That thing changed the entire battle space in one launch. And I've had this conversation now for the better part of two to 3 months, and everybody's talking about nukes. You don't need to nuke anybody anymore. Putin's got the Orishnik. The guy can hit bunkers underground with it and decimate bunkers underground just with kinetic energy. Nukes obsolete. Overnight obsolete. Strategic weapons obsolete. Too slow. They can be intercepted. So not only did he build the Orishnik, but he's got the AS 500s, and now I guess the 600s are going to be coming online very soon. And those are highly effective anti-air and anti-missile systems. So good luck with that. So imagine if the Iranians get the Orishnik. Water desalinization, any food production, any comms, any communications in the Middle East. Literally any strategic target can be hit and decimated with one strike. And so we can't afford to continue the conflict with Iran. It's not because we're losing, it's because, again, we don't have the production capacity or the logistics to be able to sustain a fight there of that magnitude. We just don't. And we haven't modernized our force. I mean, why are we still floating around carrier battle groups? They've already proven to be highly susceptible to a lot of the missile systems that the Iranians are now employing, and the Russians and Chinese are giving, and the drones. And more importantly, if we're out of missiles to counter the drones and to counter the threat, how are we going to protect them? I mean, there's just a list of things we cannot do right now. And going into Ukraine, what purpose? And by the way, why is the little turd goblin in charge of Ukraine still alive? Why is that guy still alive?
That's what you were talking about, but no, I
Yeah.
get it. Yeah.
Zelensky, the turd
Yeah.
goblin.
Okay, come on. He's such a fine leader. He's done
Oh,
so well. He's
a
done
fucking
so well for
clown.
Ukraine. Ukraine has really
Yeah.
prospered and thrived under his leadership.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
And
he's in charge.
the only reason he doesn't hold an election is because people love him so much. It's not necessary.
Yeah, let's go with that. Yeah.
Do you
And
not-
he's
do you
in
not
charge
re-
of the country.
Yeah, do you not
That's it.
do you not read The Guardian or watch the BBC, Stephen, to get your
I
news?
don't, the British bullshit company. I don't believe anything that comes out of the BBC, the Telegraph, the Telegraph, or any of the other rags in the UK, because they're all controlled by MI6. Give me a break. If I want a propaganda, I'll just stick a hose down my mouth and hook it up to a gas tank. I mean, come on. That's how bad that is. But why is he still in charge? Why have, and again, this is part of the theater. Like, how much more theater are we going to have to go through before people finally realize that all these different countries and leaders are all working, they're all installed, they're all working together, and they're all working for the elite. That's really what's going on.
Yeah.
And
More and more people are realizing that and getting awake to that, in no small part due to what you provide on your Rumble channel, on your X, and on your new YouTube channel. So please go and follow Steve there. Please comment, like, subscribe, hype my channel and hype Steven's channel on YouTube. Support me on Ko-fi.com.